Enuma Elish, the creation myth of Babylon. In the time before time, when memory itself had yet to draw its first breath, there was only the endless murmur of the deep. No sky arched above, no earth lay below. There was neither day nor night, for there were as yet no stars, no moon, no passage of sun across a horizon. All that existed was water, boundless, eternal, formless. The cosmos slumbered as a dark ocean without shore or end. Within this infinite abyss two presences stirred, a duality braided together at creation's root. There was Apsu, the primal sweet water, vast and silent, as patient and deep as the wells that would one day lie beneath the earth. He was the silent observer, the father of potential, steady and profound. And entwined with him was Tiamat, the surging salt water, wild and eternal, the mother of mingling currents and restless tides. She moved as an ever-shifting force, both nurturing and destructive, her mysteries as enigmatic as the sea's heart. Together, Apsu and Tiamat floated through the endless void, locked in an embrace that was neither peace nor battle, but pure possibility. Their waters commingled in the darkness, weaving silent eddies where the seeds of creation gathered. There were no gods, no land or sky, not even the shadow of a dream, only the whisper of water upon water, a lullaby older than existence. Yet within this watery tapestry, something more began to flicker, a restless energy building quietly in the shadows. In the silence, a subtle quickening stirred deep within Apsu and Tiamat's union, the first trembling of change, as though the darkness itself longed for shape, the silence hungered for a song. From the union of these two deep spirits emerged the firstborn, Lamu and Lahamu. Their forms shimmered at the edge of darkness, soft and uncertain, like the first pale light slipping through a clouded dawn. Untouched by earth or sky, they drifted between their parents, learning the slow and wordless dance of existence. With time, Lamu and Lahamu grew into themselves, and together gave rise to Anshar and Kishar, the horizon above, the expanse below, distant yet bound eternally. These new figures brought fresh currents into the deep, and with their arrival, the stillness grew ever more restless. From these second-born would yet more divine children issue, for the urge to create and transform had awakened in the watery womb. Still, as all this unfolded, the world remained unshaped. The rivers had no banks, the heavens no vault, the dreams of land and sky slept, undisturbed within the arms of chaos. All was potential, a waiting hush wrapped around the first glimmers of life. But as the generations multiplied, the water's peace was broken now and then by curious stirrings, new voices, the ripples of gods newly aware of themselves. Even as Apsu and Tiamat watched creation's promise unfold, subtle eddies of longing and unrest circled through their ancient depths. And so, amid darkness and swirling water, before the shaping of mountains, before the carving of rivers and the ordering of law, the universe waited. It waited as children do in the womb, cradled and protected, yet aching for birth. The hush before the storm, the breath before the word. From that infinite night and formless tide, the first notes of creation's symphony were gathering themselves, ready to break the stillness and call forth a world of wonder, conflict and destiny. The long night of formless water lingered, and time, though unborn, began to coil its invisible snake through the endless dark. From the embrace of Apsu and Tiamat, from the mingling of tranquil depths and restless tides, there came the first subtle tremors of becoming. It was as if dreamers within a dream stirred for the first time, reaching for the shape of their own awakening. Out of this swelling potential shimmered Lamu and Lahamu, the eldest twins. Their presence was gentle, a soft current rippling across the face of the great deep. Neither male nor female alone, but bearing a balance as elegant and mysterious as the quiet of dawn before any sun. They floated, ambiguous and serene, forming silhouettes in the darkness, hints of possibility. Around them the waters eddied and hummed with an unfamiliar expectancy. From the union of Lamu and Lahamu arose Ansha and Kisha, beacons in the cosmic void. Ansha, the embodiment of the horizon above, a vault not yet drawn, a height not yet measured. Kisha, the expanse below, vast, sturdy, patient as the earth that waited to be revealed. At their coming, the void itself seemed to respond. The waters pressed further outward, chasing edges that had never existed, the sleep of chaos interrupted by curiosity. In the depths, Apsu and Tiamat, ancient and eternal, regarded these new beings with wonder and with unease. The silence around the gods was softer now, the timeless waters alive with laughter, with whispers, with the first clumsy attempts at speech. From Ansha and Kisha sprang still more children, multitudes of young gods whose natures had never before filled existence. Ea, wise and shrewd, a god of the sweet waters, whispered riddles to the deep. Others rose in his wake, each with a distinct magic and a hungry light in their being. Generations of deities multiplied beneath the waves. Each arrival altered the music of the void. Voices layered, melodies intertwined, a tapestry of divine curiosity and energy growing ever richer. There were new games, new debates, new echoes in this celestial nursery. The waters trembled with song, laughter, and the first seed of strife, tiny now, but insistent, woven secretly into the chorus of becoming. And so it was that the world's shapeless potential became charged with life. The ancient silence was pierced by the murmur of voices, the shiver of intentions, the sharp glint of cleverness sparked in the minds of the divine children. Creation was no longer just a possibility held in the womb of night. It was an irresistible promise, a river gathering in strength, preparing to spill forth into wonder and danger. Yet, even as joy bloomed in this new-clad company, Apsu felt the steady rising of discomfort. His patience was an old tree, deep-rooted and slow to move, but now these young gods shook his peace with their exuberant presence. The lullabies of eternity faded beneath the clamour. Tiamat, torn between her fierce devotion to all her offspring and loyalty to her ancient consort, watched with eyes as unfathomable as the sea. She too sensed the first ripples of discord, a faint undertow beneath the laughter and song. Thus did the dance of creation turn, spinning more swiftly with each breath, each birth. From the formless and the eternal, beings of intention and personality had come, eager for purpose, restless for change. Their existence was a chorus of newness, and beneath its melody the seeds of upheaval waited, patient and sure. With each passing age in the shadowed world, the once peaceful waters grew unsettled, disturbed not by wind or storm, but by song and laughter spun by countless young gods. In the watery halls of eternity, cries of discovery, games and arguments echoed, swirling through the primeval deeps like living currents. Every voice, every splash in that formless ocean was another ripple that chipped away at the silence Apsu revered and Tiamat mourned. To Apsu, lord of sweet water and stillness, These sounds grew grating with the weight of years. What once seemed the gentle song of becoming became a cacophony, a ceaseless clamour stealing sleep from the world's first dreamer. Weariness crept into his ancient bones, and longing for the calm void he had known became an ache. In secret his worry grew. He consulted Mummu, his vizier, a spirit as slippery as the mist atop the waves. Mummu, sensing opportunity, whispered counsel laced with venom, that only the utter erasure of the young gods could restore true quiet to the deep. Reluctant yet desperate, Apsu allowed the seed of destruction to blossom in his heart. Still, not all was hidden from the bright young deities. Among them moved Ea, keen-eyed and sharp-witted master of hidden things. The whispers of conspiracy curled into his wise ears. Reading omens in the restless waters and in the words unsaid, Ea perceived the old god's intent. With the patience of the river and the cunning of the snake, Ea set his own plan in motion. In the midnight shadow of the abyss, as Apsu sought to carry out his grim resolve, Ea wove a spell, soothing and silent as falling dew. The incantation slid through the currents, and as it closed around the old god, Apsu's anger and unrest dissolved into sleep deeper than night. Helpless, ancient Apsu drifted in that final slumber, his powers leaking away like water into sand. Without mercy, Ea struck. The deed was swift and sure. The slayer became the master, his victory echoing loudly in the deep. Mummu, the plotting vizier, was bound. With Apsu gone, the old chaos that once ruled was replaced by a new order. Shrines grew upon the conquered deep, holy places glittered amid the black tides, and Ea claimed the waters as his own. Within this sanctified domain, with Damkina his beloved, Ea begot a child whose destiny would outshine any born before or after, Marduk, whose birth would reshape the world. But as the new gods rejoiced, a darker tide began to gather. The waters bore the stain of betrayal, and Tiamat, once mother, once bearer of all, found her heart overcome by sorrow and fury. The balance was broken, and in its place the ancient world teetered on the edge of a storm that would soon swallow every living thing. In the aftershock of Apsu's fall, the ancient equilibrium of the waters was shattered, and grief swelled within the heart of Tiamat, the eternal mother, until it overflowed into a fury that quickened the very depths. Betrayed by her children and stripped of her eternal companion, Tiamat drifted for a while in the darkness, a vast presence hollowed by sorrow, her ancient mind raging with loss and confusion. But fury grew where grief had bloomed. In the black silence her spirit twisted and hardened, and where once she had cradled creation in her embrace, now she became the font of vengeance. From the storm of her anguish, Tiamat whispered dark life into being. From her salt tears and chaotic dreams, she brought forth an army not of tenderness but of terror. Monsters of every shape and terror rose from her folds, dragons with bones of iron, serpents breathing poison and smoke, scorpion men armed with claws of lightning, and demons streaked in shadows, all bearing her hatred as their battle cry. Among these monstrous children she set Kingu, her chosen, her lover since Apsu's death, and upon his breast she placed the Tablet of Destinies, this sacred symbol of ultimate power and authority, so that not just might but fate itself bent to their will. King was anointed as general and champion, the rallying leader for the coming storm. Now the tides of the uncreated world grew restless. The new gods, once brimming with joy, felt terror creep into their councils as Tiamat's warlike intent became a storm cloud gathering at the edge of existence. Her voice, once a lullaby, thundered out a declaration of war against her own descendants, her unforgiving roar boiling the waters and sending fear into the bones of even the boldest deity. Hope fell like a shadow over the young gods as they scattered before her elemental rage, and the ripples of the coming battle set every current trembling. No longer a mother, no longer merely chaos, Tiamat had become the relentless architect of rebellion. So the world hung suspended between the laws of creation and the wrath of the void, as the army of monsters assembled and the silent waiting deep vibrated with the promise of cataclysm. The stage was set, the old order overturned, and the gods' only hope would lie not in flight, not in silence, but in the summoning of a champion to face the mother of all terrors at the heart of the storm. Amid the mounting dread that swept through the assembly of gods, their numbers scattered and spirits diminished by Tiamat's ferocious wrath, there arose a whisper of hope, a single growing flame in the vast darkness. Marduk, son of Ea and Damkina, born amid the sanctuary forged in the aftermath of Apsu's downfall, strode forth with a light that cut through the gathering gloom. Tall and radiant, his limbs suffused with the strength of storms and the wisdom of flowing waters, Marduk's presence was as commanding as dawn surging across a world still tangled in deep night. The younger gods gathered, desperate yet wary, their eyes reflecting storm-tossed resolve and the glint of uncertain futures as Marduk, surveying the turmoil, spoke with a conviction that rang through the celestial halls.
Summon your courage, for I shall stand against Tiamat, her monsters, and all her swirling venom. But know this, if I prevail, if I restore order to the cosmos and free you from despair, you must grant me supremacy among you all. Let me hold the scepter of destiny. Let me rule as king of gods, so that I may seal peace forever.
At first, the gods hesitated, for the memory of betrayal and war still shivered in their spirits. Yet as they looked upon Marduk, his eyes blazing like twin suns, his voice deeper than thunder, resolute and unwavering, their doubt faded, replaced by wonder and reluctant faith. The great council was convened, its decision set in stone and sky. Marduk would be their champion, and if victorious, their lord. The gods forged mighty weapons and dressed him in holy armour, a breastplate gleaming with the shimmer of stars, weapons of fire and wind humming at his side. At his request they gifted him the storm wind to be his servant and shield, and the four winds to drive at his command, so that nothing in heaven or earth could outpace or outwit him. Into his hands they placed the bow of the hunt, and the lightning bolt carved from purest flame. Over his heart they sang incantations for invincibility and fate's favour. Sweet incense of cosmic hope curled in the air as solemn vows were spoken, and Marduk, taller with every promise, stood at the threshold of destiny. The gods, with trembling voices, swore eternal loyalty should he triumph, their fear briefly pierced by faith in the Son of Wisdom and Magic. So Marduk, godchild golden and fierce, crowned with the might of 100 oaths, and armed with all that song, magic, and resolve could bestow, strode forth to meet his destiny, his every step turning terror into anticipation and despair, into the first faint notes of hope, while behind him the hopes of all creation gathered, still fragile, trembling, yet burning with the possibility that even the oldest chaos could be mastered and turned toward a new and shining order. The heavens held their breath as Marduk, bold and radiant, stood ready to face the terrifying Tiamat. She loomed before him, a colossal embodiment of the savage sea, her vast form roiling and shifting like a storm unleashed. Her eyes burned with tempestuous fury, her breath a wild gale that tossed the waters into chaotic whirlpools. Around her stirred a terrifying host of monstrous beings, serpents that hissed venomous curses, dragons whose scales shimmered like shards of blackest night, and demons born of storm and shadow. They were the children of chaos, loyal only to her wrathful will. Marduk's heart surged with both fear and resolve. He knew that the fate of all creation rested on this battle, where the ancient forces of destruction met the promise of order and light. Gathering his strength, he lifted his great bow and nocked a shimmering arrow wrought from the essence of the morning star. The wind itself obeyed his command, swirling around him in a tempestuous cloak of power and fury. His voice rang out clear and commanding, echoing over the waters like a trumpet of destiny. Let the battle of worlds begin. With a roar that split the skies, Marduk unleashed the winds, binding Tiamat's breath in invisible chains. The great goddess thrashed and howled, her storm-tossed fury attempting to break free, but the winds held firm, shrinking her rage like a net drawn tight. With blinding speed, Marduk fired the star arrow, striking deep into Tiamat's scaly hide. Though wounded, she rose in fury, summoning waves that towered like mountains, threatening to drown the brave god in an endless sea of ruin. Yet Marduk stood unwavering. He raised his thunderbolt, crafted in the forge of creation, crackling with celestial fire. The bolt pierced the turbulence, striking true at the heart of chaos. Tiamat screamed, a sound like the breaking of the world, and the waters around them boiled and roared. The clash echoed through all realms, shaking the foundations of heaven and earth alike. With a final, victorious surge, Marduk cleaved through Tiamat's massive body. The terrible goddess let out a deafening cry as her form shattered, dividing into two mighty halves. From the upper half he raised the sky, vast, bright and eternal, a dome of endless blue and sparkling stars. From the lower half he forged the earth, solid and fertile, a cradle for mountains, rivers and valleys. Light and shadow found their places. Rivers flowed and the winds breathed freely. Out of destruction sprang the ordered world. Meanwhile, King Yu, Tiamat's chosen consort and champion, was captured amid the turmoil. Stripped of the great tablet of destinies, the source of his power and authority, he was bound and brought before the assembly of gods. From his blood mixed with clay, humanity was fashioned to bear the burdens of the gods, to tend the lands and maintain the cosmic balance. The victory of Marduk was not merely a military triumph, it was a cosmic revolution, transforming chaos into order, silence into song, void into living, breathing reality. The gods looked on in awe and relief, their world reborn by the courage and strength of one. The battle's fury had ended, leaving the universe shaped and whole, poised on the brink of a new era. In that still moment after the storm, all creation seemed to hold its breath once more. An endless promise shimmered on the horizon, that from conflict harmony might grow, and from the depths of chaos life itself might flourish. With the fierce storm of battle behind him, and the monstrous chaos of Tiamat's shattered form still settling into quiet ruin, Marduk stood among the gods poised to fashion existence anew. From the raw remnants of the primordial tempest, the great halves of the slain goddess, he wove the fabric of the cosmos. The upper half stretched and solidified above to become the sky, a vast and shining dome pulsing with stars, suns and moons, each placed with precise care so their light would govern time and seasons, marking the endless turning of days and nights. From the earthward half he crafted solid land, mountains rising like sentinels, rolling plains and valleys that yawned in fertile promise, rivers carving through stone, their waters singing songs of life. Yet the freshly minted world was still silent. No wind stirred its face, no creatures roamed its breadth. The land and sky held possibility, but awaited the breath of life. Aware of the immensity of this task, Marduk summoned the gods to his side and assigned each a portion of the ordered cosmos, a sacred stewardship that would ensure the continuing balance and function of all things. He crowned the winds his servants to carry sound and scent across the earth. He charged the stars and moon with maintaining time and entrusted the rivers and seas to flow by divine decree. The cycles began, the endless rhythm of birth, growth, decay, and renewal sealed by divine law. Yet the gods, wearied from battle and bound by duty, faced the ceaseless labours of tending existence, sustaining order, and maintaining the sacred patterns set in motion. Seeing this weight upon them, Marduk devised the creation of man, not from the waters like himself, but from a potent mixture forged in the shadow of war. The blood of Kingu, Tiamat's fallen champion, mingled with the clay of the new earth. From this sacred and sombre union emerged humanity, beings fashioned with both divine essence and earthly form, destined neither as rivals nor mere servants, but as caretakers of the created order. These humans inherited a sacred role, to till the soil, sow the fields, build the temples, and offer homage to the gods who had shaped the world. They would bear the burdens the gods could not, sustaining temples' fires and lifting their voices in prayerful song so that the heavens and earth might remain joined in covenant. Bound to this task, mankind became the living, breathing bridge between mortal and divine, the stewards of a cosmos balanced precariously on the edge of chaos and order. Thus life blossomed upon the world of Marduk's making. The first dawn painted the heavens with splendour, animals stirred in the forests and upon the hills, and the rivers teemed with unseen currents of vitality. The land sang with the sounds of creation, birdsong and the rustle of leaves, the sigh of wind and the murmur of waters. All was intertwined in harmony, a sacred order not simply imposed but woven into the very essence of existence. And so it was that from the devastation of divine conflict rose a new beginning, the world itself set in motion by godly hands, and humanity, born from sacrifice and clay, given life to sustain the eternal balance. The cosmos held its breath and then exhaled, a breath of promise, a song of hope, echoing through the ages to come, whispered in every ripple of water, every rustling leaf, every beating heart. With the fury of battle behind him, and creation's raw materials shaped from the shattered body of Tiamat, Marduk turned his gaze upon the cosmos newly born, but still wild and untamed. The world, though fashioned, was not yet ordered. Stars flickered randomly in the endless sky. Rivers raced unchecked, and the winds roamed free with reckless abandon. The seeds of chaos still whispered, threatening to unravel the fragile balance born of his victory. Resolute in his divine purpose, Marduk began the sacred work of shaping the heavens into a grand, harmonious design. He reached out to the scattered stars, grouping them into constellations that would guide mortal through the night and mark the turning of seasons. With a word he spun the sun across the sky, blazing its path by day, and set the silver moon to govern the darkness, casting gentle light to watch over the earth below. The days and nights were woven into an eternal cycle, the heartbeat of time itself. Next, Marduk turned to the earth, vast and newly formed but barren. He called forth the winds from their hiding to blow across the lands, to bring rain and cool breezes. He raised the towering mountains to stand sentinel, cradling the rivers to flow through the valleys, nourishing the soil. Marduk commanded the fertile earth to burst forth with grasses, trees, and crops, each with its purpose and place, a living tapestry of green and life. Yet transformation was required not only for the natural world, but for the divine world as well. Marduk summoned the host of gods who had fought beside him, gathering them before his radiant throne. There in the mighty assembly he designated roles and realms, appointing gods to govern the skies, oceans, and the underworld, while others were assigned domains of wisdom, war, and fertility. Each divine task was carefully measured to maintain the cosmic balance, the weave of order that must never unravel. This council was sealed with divine oaths, binding gods and creation in a pact of eternal harmony. But amidst this grandeur, Marduk's vision extended to a shining jewel that would stand at the very heart of civilization and worship, the city of Babylon. He commanded its founding upon the earth, her bricks and stones to rise as a testament to his sovereign rule and the triumph of order over chaos. Here in Babylon the gods would find a home among mortals, a place sacred and majestic. There they would dwell within the great temple Esagila, crafted with infinite care and consecrated by divine presence. The construction of Esagila was no mere act of architecture but of cosmic significance. Its walls were imbued with blessings, its towers reaching toward the heavens as bridges between realms. Statues of gods and goddesses filled its halls, and altars burned with eternal flame, symbols of sacred authority and reverence. As the temple rose, so too did the spirit of civilization, with laws, culture, and worship blossoming under Babylon's radiant sky. In the great gathering that followed, the gods lifted their voices in unison, praising Marduk with hymns of gratitude and awe. Titles of honor and names of glory were bestowed upon him, the King of the gods, Lord of the universe, Master of heaven and earth. His sovereignty was recognized as absolute, his justice revered as the foundation of existence. The assembly's song was a chorus of peace, signaling the dawn of an age where chaos no longer reigned and order shaped all that was, is, and will be. Thus was peace secured, a peace born from courage, wisdom, and divine will. The eternal work of governing the heavens and earth passed into hands both divine and mortal, their fates intertwined beneath the firmament that Marduk had fashioned. Babylon flourished as the center of this sacred order, a beacon to all peoples who honored the gods and embraced the harmony born from the primordial depths. And so the cosmos stood firm, balanced upon the legacy of a god who rose from conflict to crown the world with light, law, and life. With the mighty cosmos shaped and the world brought forth from the shattered body of Tiamat, the gods gathered once more in solemn assembly. The battlefield where chaos had reigned was now still, replaced by the harmonious order that Marduk had forged through courage and divine power. One by one the gods approached the great throne that Marduk now occupied, glorious, radiant, and sovereign over all. The assembly was filled with an awe and reverence unlike any before. From the highest heavens to the deepest places of the earth, the voices of the gods rose together in unison, proclaiming their champion as the supreme lord and ruler. They spoke his names, 50 in all, each a title revealing a different aspect of his power. Master of the heavens, King of the gods, Creator of life, Lord of truth and justice. These names were sacred, a litany of exaltation to be taught to generations to come, binding all creation to the will of Marduk. O Marduk, you are our champion, they declared. We hereby give you sovereignty over all the whole universe. Sit in the assembly, and your word shall be preeminent. Their voices carried the weight of divine decree and the ancient wisdom of the cosmos itself. With each pronouncement, Marduk's stature grew, embodying the unity and order that now held the heavens, earth, and underworld together. In this grand council, the gods bestowed upon him the tablets of destiny, symbols of unmatched authority and control over fate and law. With these tablets, Marduk's utterance would shape reality itself. Whatever he decreed could never be undone. No god could transgress his limits. No power could challenge his reign. His command was sealed as eternal law. The assembly went beyond mere words. The gods raised hymns and praises, their voices weaving a celestial song celebrating Marduk's victory over chaos and his gift of life and order. They spoke of his wisdom, his strength, and his mercy, qualities that made him worthy of rule not only over the gods but over all beings. In time, the gods turned their hands to building a monument worthy of the new king. They built Babylon, sacred city of harmony and divine presence, upon the earth as a terrestrial reflection of the heavenly order. There, the magnificent temple Esagila rose to the skies, a dwelling befitting the king of gods, a holy place where the divine and mortal worlds could meet. This saga concluded with a feast, a grand celebration of the cosmic harmony established by Marduk. Around this divine banquet, the gods reaffirmed their allegiance and praised their lord with songs and sacred rites. This was a promise that the legacy of Marduk, the peace born from chaos, and the eternal order of the cosmos would endure through all time, taught and remembered by fathers to sons, generation after generation. Thus, the Enuma Elish closes, not with an end, but a beginning, the dawn of civilization under the watchful eye of Marduk, where the harmony of the heavens and earth stands firm, and the song of creation plays on forever. Heliopolitan, the creation myth of Egypt. In the beginning, there was only none, a boundless ocean of dark, watery chaos stretching beyond sight and thought. It was a vast silence, an eternal night where no star burned, no wind stirred, and no shape disrupted the perfect stillness. The waters clung to each other in endless embrace, neither warm nor cold, neither heavy nor light, an infinite expanse without edge or limit. Here, time itself seemed forgotten, suspended as if in an everlasting dream without beginning or end. No motion stirred the surface, no breath whispered across the depths. The whole universe lay wrapped in a shroud of quiet mystery. It was a place where nothing existed except the potential for all things, a primordial womb, immense and impenetrable, pregnant with the unspoken and the unseen. The darkness bore no hint of form or purpose, only endless possibility resting beneath the surface like seeds waiting to awaken. Within this silent void, the waters slumbered in perfect stillness, as though cradling the very essence of creation within their depths. No god had yet stirred, no light had broken through. The emptiness stretched endlessly, a vast theatre waiting patiently for the first act to begin. It was in this profound stillness that the seeds of creation first gathered strength, unseen and unfelt, as if the cosmos itself was holding its breath. A hidden energy brewed in the abyss, a quiet tension that bent the fabric of nothingness toward becoming. From the unfathomable deep, a delicate pulse began, a trembling not yet sound or motion, but a stirring that teased the edge of possibility. And so, in the silence of noon, amid the endless dark water, the first whisper of life dreamed just beyond the veil of shadow, waiting for the time to awaken and claim the world for light and shape. From the endless expanse of noon a subtle shift began, so faint it might have been mistaken for a dream, a whisper within the vast silence. Yet beneath the placid surface, within the limitless waters, a force gathered, coalescing from the formless depths, seeking form and purpose. Slowly, as if the universe itself stretched after a long slumber, the waters stirred with a trembling grace. From the abyssal darkness a shape began to rise, indistinct at first, nothing but an impression, a gentle hillock swelling against the void. The primordial flood gave way beneath this emerging presence, and from the liquid shadow a mound lifted, shimmering faintly with a light not yet born of sun or sky. This was the Ben, the first solid ground, the sacred foundation that would hold all creation to come. The mound pierced the watery veil like a solitary beacon, proclaiming the end of chaos and the beginning of form. It was neither large nor towering, but it carried weight beyond its size, anchoring the restless energies of the universe into something tangible and eternal. The waters, which had once swallowed all without trace, now lapped gently against this new rising land, as if awed by its quiet majesty. Around the Ben, the flood began to recede, whispering secrets of birth and becoming as it withdrew into hidden depths. The mound stood resilient amidst the shadows of the endless waters, a lone island where possibilities took root. In this sacred emergence lay the first sign of order, the boundary drawn between void and existence, the ancient and ineffable moment when the world began to take shape. The Ben's surface gleamed softly, catching the first glimmer of light destined to break forth, a promise that darkness would not endure forever. It was a threshold between nothingness and being, a sacred ground upon which Atum, the self-created god, would soon stand to carry the divine will forward. Around it, the silence softened with the hushed currents of creation's breath, the tender pulse of a universe awakening, preparing to blossom into form, light, and endless possibility. The mound, humble and eternal, was the heart of a world yet to come, a beacon raised against the chaos, marking the place where all things would begin. Upon the gleaming summit of the Fenben mound, solitary and radiant, Atum emerged, self-created, unbegotten by any other, a spark ignited from the infinite silence of none. He rose not from womb nor thought, but by sheer force of will, a conscious breath summoned from the depths of nothingness. Atum stood alone, the first form to break the endless dark, a god both maker and made, beginning and becoming intertwined in his solitary existence. His presence was a profound fullness against the emptiness, a shining axis upon which the nascent universe turned. With no eyes to see him yet, no ears to hear, he was fully aware, a living thought shaping itself into being atop the sacred ground, the first creature awake in the sleeping cosmos. Atum regarded the endless waters that still stretched out beneath and around him, boundless and silent, carrying within their depths the residue of unformed chaos. He felt the vast solitude pressing upon him, the weight of being alone in the immensity, and within him stirred the first desire for companionship, for creation. From this desire, powerful and deep as the tides that would one day carve the deserts and rivers, Atum began the sacred act that would rupture the veil of silence. From his own essence, by the simple act of will, he fashioned the first divine pair. With a breath, half spoken and half thought, he called forth Shu, god of air and breath, the element that would part the waters with invisible fingers, and Tefnut, goddess of moisture and life, whose rising mist would awaken the barren world. In this moment, light brushed the dark, form met formlessness. Atum, the self-begotten, stood as the seed of all that was to come. His solitary throne atop the Benben was the origin from which the branches of creation unfurled, and his breath was the first wind that stirred the sleeping universe into motion. The silence of noon was broken not by thunder or flame, but by the gentle, resolute emergence of a being who was both alone and complete, the living spark of creation's endless flame. And thus, on the mountain top of the beginning, Atum prepared to sculpt the shapes of cosmos and gods, to weave the story of becoming from the threads of quiet power and infinite possibility. Upon the sacred summit of the Benben, where Atum stood as the solitary beginning and the breath of creation itself, a profound yearning stirred deep within him. Though he was whole and complete, the infinite silence pressed upon his being, a vast loneliness that echoed across the endless waters surrounding the mound. From this longing came the vast act that would shatter the perfect solitude and begin the flowering of life. Atum reached within himself, drawing forth the first emanations of existence. With a breath that carried both power and tenderness, he summoned into being Shu, the god of air and breath. Intangible yet vital, the invisible force that would part the darkness and carry the promise of life. Alongside Shu appeared Tefnut, the goddess of moisture and life, whose essence shimmered with the nurturing mist and the life-bearing rain, the gentle embrace of water that would awaken the dormant earth. Their birth was an act of both will and love, an unfolding from Atum's own essence, a divine echo cast into living form. Shu emerged as the space between, a vital wind that would lift the veil of chaos and hold apart the realms of earth and sky, while Tefnut's presence brought the gift of moisture, the pulse of vitality flowing through every droplet, every wave. Together they balanced the unseen forces that shape the world, their breath mingling with the silent air and their moisture weaving through the dark emptiness like shimmering threads of promise. They surrounded Atum's solitary mound with movement and feeling, their divine elements stirring the waiting cosmos into gentle motion. In their union lay the first harmony, a sacred dance of opposites, air and water, breath and moisture, separation and unity. Their divine interplay became the first dance of creation, setting a pattern that would echo through all life and all time. Through Shu's breath, the world would know wind and sky. Through Tefnut's tears, the earth would receive rain and the gift of growth. Their divine gifts mark the beginning of transformation, a slow awakening as the waters that once held everything began to part, revealing the promise of land and sky, light and shadow. Atom watched his children with awe, his singular gaze filled with hope. In Shu and Tefnut he beheld the first signs that the empty silence was giving way to vibrant life, that the endless dark was stirring with possibility. Their birth was the first thread pulled from the fabric of nothingness, a spark lighting the way toward the creation of the world's future splendor. Above the sacred mound, the silent waters whispered around their feet, carrying the weight of their promise, as the bright dawn of existence began to unfold beneath the watchful eyes of gods yet to come. The world, once a simple harmony of air and moisture woven by Shu and Tefnut, began to stir with deeper complexity. Their union brought forth new life, Geb, the earth itself, and Nut, the expansive sky, each a divine embodiment of the foundational realms that would shape all existence. Geb rose from the fertile embrace of the earth, his vast form firm and steady, rooted in strength and potential. He was the solid ground beneath all things, the cradle of life's many forms, his breath stirring the soil, coaxing seeds to sprout and trees to reach toward the heavens. His body shaped the rolling hills, the deep valleys, the rivers that traced winding paths across the land, the very bones of creation beneath the feet of gods and mortals alike. Above him stretched Nut, the graceful and eternal sky, her form arching wide and radiant, a vast canopy shimmering with ancient light. Her body was a celestial vault, draped in the deep blue of endless space and sprinkled with the glitter of stars, gems illuminating the dark canvas of night. Nut held the heavens aloft with gentle strength, marking the boundaries of the earthly realm and cradling the sun's daily journey through the sky. The space between her outstretched form and Geb's solid body was charged with sacred tension, a divine space where the breath of creation expanded and life could find room to grow. Their embrace was at once tender and powerful, a dynamic balance of closeness and separation that gave birth to the cycles of day and night, the rhythms of the seasons and the turning of time itself. Though they were bound as lovers, their union was marked by the divine decree that they remain apart. For only in distance, maintained by the air of Shu, could the world find order and space to flourish. It was this sacred separation that defined the cosmos, the earth below and the sky above, forever distinct yet eternally connected. Nut's graceful arch above the horizon created the dome beneath which all life would live, while Geb's firm body bore the weight of all creatures and plants rooted in his soil. Together they shaped the stage on which every story of existence would unfold, from the humble blade of grass swaying in the wind to the soaring flight of birds tracing paths across the heavens. In the silence between them, life began its endless dance. The waters retreated to the edges of the world, revealing lands rich with possibility. Mountains rose where Geb's breath grew strong. Stars shimmered where Nut's light danced most brightly. The dawn of this cosmic order brought with it a world no longer locked in chaos but alive, vibrant and full of promise. the Ben mound beneath them, once a lone peak in the watery abyss, now stood as the fertile heart of creation, crowned by the sprawling embrace of earth and sky. Here, bound by love and divine law, Geb and Nut held the universe between them, a sacred balance from which all life and being would forever flow. From the sacred embrace of Geb, the steadfast earth, and Nut, the expansive sky, sprang forth a divine offspring whose presence would forever alter the fabric of the universe and shape the course of mortal and divine realms alike. These children, Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys, were not merely deities but living embodiments of the dynamic forces that govern existence, each carrying a unique aspect of creation's complexity and mystery. Osiris, the eldest and the gentle lord of fertility and renewal, emerged as a beacon of hope and rebirth. His touch turned the barren soil fertile, his breath breathed life into crops, and his realm extended beyond the mortal coil, where he ruled as the sovereign of the afterlife. In his kingdom, death was transformed into passage, decay into resurrection, and loss into eternal promise. His story would become the sacred archetype of redemption and the endless cycle of life and death, teaching humanity the profound truth that from endings come new beginnings. Beside him stood Isis, radiant with divine wisdom and nurturing power, the embodiment of motherhood, magic, and healing. She was the faithful protector, weaving spells of love and restoration, calling upon ancient mysteries to shield the vulnerable and revive the fallen. Through her boundless compassion, Isis bridged the worlds of gods and mortals, animal and spirit, teaching that magic lay not only in the heavens but in the deepest wells of the human heart. Her presence was a balm to suffering and a source of strength that would inspire devotion across the ages. In stark contrast, Set, wild, fierce, and tempestuous, embodied the unruly forces of chaos, storms, and upheaval. His energy was the unpredictable tempest that shattered complacency and tested the boundaries of order. Feared yet indispensable, Set's role was a fierce reminder that destruction and disorder are indispensable aspects of transformation and growth. He was the catalyst of change, the embodiment of conflict that stirs the cosmos and ignites the fires of renewal. Yet his story was not merely one of rivalry and strife, but of balance, where chaos meets order and where the universe finds its pulsating equilibrium. Nephthys, the quieter presence among the siblings, was the guardian of the hidden, the shadows, and the mysteries that lie beyond mortal sight. She moved silently in the liminal spaces, protector of secrets and guide of souls transitioning between life and death. Though less visible than her sister Isis, her influence was profound, embodying the unseen forces that sustain the cosmic balance. Nephthys held the delicate threshold that binds the known to the unknown, a sacred keeper of transformation, mourning, and the protective veil that shields life's fragility. Together, these divine siblings illustrated the web of existence itself. Love and loss, order and chaos, light and shadow, each playing a vital part in the eternal dance of creation. Their relationships were complex and deeply intertwined, marked by devotion, conflict, vengeance, and reconciliation, reflecting the multifaceted nature of the cosmos and human experience. The myth of Osiris's tragic death and miraculous resurrection spoke of sacrifice and eternal hope, while the fierce battles between Set and Osiris reveal the constant tension between stability and upheaval in the world. Isis's unwavering loyalty and sacred magic illustrated the power of devotion and healing, and Nephthys's quiet guardianship symbolized the enduring protection found in the unseen and mysterious. As these gods moved among the heavens and the earth, they set the patterns for the natural order, the cycles of life and death, and the sacred laws that would guide the fragile balance of worlds. Their stories would become the foundation of myth, ritual, and belief, a divine narrative interwoven with the destiny of mortals, shaping the wisdom, fears, and hopes of generations to come. The children of Geb and Nut, born from the union of earth's strength and sky's vastness, stood as eternal pillars in the unfolding tale of existence, their presence a testament to the profound forces at play in the universe and the ceaseless journey of creation and renewal. With the birth of the children of Geb and Nut, the divine family grew into a sacred assembly known as the Ennead, a council of 9 gods embodying the very essence of creation and the unfolding order of the cosmos. Atum, the self-originated creator and sovereign of the beginning, remained at the centre of this divine gathering, the fountainhead from which all power and authority flowed. Around him stood the generations of gods, Shu and Tefnut, Geb and Nut, Osiris, Isis, Set and Nephthys, each uniquely embodying vital forces that held the universe together in a delicate cosmic balance. The Ennead's purpose was profound and multifaceted, to govern the eternal dance between chaos and order, life and death, light and shadow. Their divine interactions and relationships, rich with alliances, rivalries and shared destinies, formed the living web that linked the heavens and the earth. Through their will and actions, the fabric of existence was woven with intricate threads, defining the natural rhythms and laws that sustained all things. Each member of the Ennead held a sacred role in this cosmic tapestry. Shu with his breath that divided sky and earth, Tefnut who brought moisture to life, Geb as the fertile earth beneath all creation, Nut the expansive sky above, Osiris the lord of resurrection and eternal life, Isis the nurturing mother and magician, Set the fierce force of chaos and upheaval, and Nephthys the guardian of secrets and shadows. Together they shaped the order that allowed the universe to flourish. The steady course of the sun across the firmament, the flowing waters of the Nile that gifted life to the land, the cyclical turning of seasons, and the sacred rites that bound gods and mortals alike. The concept of Maat, divine truth, balance, and justice, was at the heart of their council, the principle that held the world firm against the ever-encroaching pull of chaos. Their divine consensus formed the foundation of cosmic law, from which earthly kingship and human morality would later draw their legitimacy and purpose. The stories of the Ennead echoed through time as both myth and instruction, teaching mortals the rhythms of the cosmos and the sacred duties that maintained harmony. Their divine narrative was a living cosmos in motion, where acts of creation intertwined with tales of conflict, sacrifice, and reconciliation. The Ennead's unity was never static but a dynamic interplay, an eternal balancing act where order was constantly renewed and challenged by the forces Set embodied. This tension forged the vitality and resilience of the universe, mirroring the perpetual cycles of birth, growth, decay, and renewal that define all living things. In their eternal assembly, the gods held the secrets of existence and the keys to the cosmic order. Their presence infused the world with meaning and structure, anchoring the heavens to the earth through divine will and law. Beneath their watchful eyes, the mortal world found guidance and purpose, living within the sacred bounds set by the gods' decree. The Ennead, as the ultimate embodiment of divine authority and cosmic balance, stood as the unwavering pillars supporting the grandeur and mystery of creation, a celestial council from which all life, order, and possibility flowed, enduring beyond time itself. In the profound stillness that followed the establishment of divine order, Atum's gaze swept across the newly formed cosmos, the earth beneath, the sky above, and the divine family whose presence shaped the rhythms of existence. Yet, despite the richness of gods and the promise of the fertile earth and vast heavens, a new longing stirred within the heart of creation, the desire to fill the world with beings who could walk upon the land, breathe the air, and share in the beauty and mystery of existence. From this sacred impulse, a new chapter in the grand story began, the creation of humanity and the blossoming of nature in all its abundance. Atum wept, and from his tears sprung forth the first humans, fragile yet imbued with the divine spark. These beings were born not merely of earth and water, but of the very breath of the gods, reflections of the divine essence placed upon the fertile soil. Humanity was created as caretakers, companions to the gods, participants in the sacred balance known as Mahat. They were given life to honour the cycles of birth and death, to worship the sun's journey and the moon's gentle light, and to uphold the cosmic order woven by the Ennead. These humans, though small and mortal, were charged with the profound responsibility of sustaining harmony between the seen and unseen worlds. Alongside humanity, nature exploded into vibrant life. The earth, embodied by Geb, blossomed with an array of plants, from towering trees whose branches traced the sky to delicate flowers that sweetened the air. Animals roamed the plains and forests, each species carrying its own place in the web of life. Birds took wing beneath Nut's vast canopy, their songs joining the chorus of the wind. Rivers filled the valleys, sparkling with fresh water, while mountains stood as timeless sentinels shaped by Geb's breath. Every aspect of nature breathed with purpose and rhythm, synchronized to the eternal cycles of the sun and moon, the flood of the Nile, and the changing seasons that dictated survival and growth. The creation of humanity and nature was not an end, but a beginning, a covenant between gods and mortals destined to endure through ritual, reverence, and the unending dance of life. Humans learned to cultivate the land, to honour the gifts of the gods through offerings and prayers, and to recognize the divine in the patterns of the natural world. Their lives were interwoven with the celestial and earthly cycles, mirroring the eternal dance that began with Atum's breath and the rise of the Ben. This new chapter radiated with promise and purpose. Humanity, born from divine tears and nurtured by the fertile earth and shimmering sky, began its journey beneath the watchful eyes of gods. Together with the vibrant tapestry of nature, humans carried forward the sacred trust to live in balance, to respect the mysteries of life and death, and to become the living testament to the endless cycle of creation and renewal. The world, no longer silent, sang with life, its heartbeat echoing the eternal breath of the divine, and the unbreakable bond between gods, nature, and humankind. The world, now teeming with earth and sky, gods and mortals, pulsed with the steady rhythm of an unending cycle, the eternal dance of life, death, and rebirth that shaped all of existence. Atum, the self-created creator and ultimate source, watched over this vibrant tapestry with a gaze as vast as the cosmos itself. His presence, though unseen by mortal eyes, was woven into the very fabric of the universe, the eternal pulse that whispered through every living thing. Each dawn, from his infinite breath, the sun was born anew, a fiery orb that crossed the sky in majestic procession, embodying the promise of renewal and the continuity of time. With the rise of the sun came light and warmth, stirring earth and sky, awakening creatures from their nightly rest. As day turned to dusk, the sun was gently enfolded by Nut's starry cloak, descending into the mysterious realm of night to renew its strength, a sacred rite of passage that echoed the endless promise of rebirth. Alongside the sun's journey, the moon traced its quieter path, guardian of night and keeper of transformation, its phases reflecting the constant flow of change that governed all life. The waxing and waning of the moon became sacred markers of time, guiding the rhythms of the earth and the hearts of mortals. Around this celestial dance, the gods continued their divine tasks, sustaining the balance and harmony of the cosmos. Osiris ruled over the realm beyond death, guiding souls through twilight realms and offering hope in resurrection. Isis, with her magic and compassion, guarded life and healing, while Set's wild, tempestuous essence reminded all of the vital force within chaos, spurring renewal through upheaval. Nephthys stood vigil in shadows, a silent protector of mysteries and transitions. Shu and Tefnut breathed life-giving air and moisture into the realms, nurturing the earth and sky, which Geb and Nut held in eternal embrace. Their combined efforts upheld Ma'at, the cosmic order that held chaos at bay and ensured the flourishing of life. These divine rhythms mirrored those observed by humanity, the cycle of planting and harvest, birth and death, day and night, all reflections of the sacred cosmic order maintained by the Ennead. Rituals and prayers honoured this cycle, binding mortal lives to the eternal dance of creation. The stories of gods and mortals intertwined, each sunrise and sunset a reminder that existence is a continual becoming, where endings are but beginnings cloaked in new light. Creation was not a singular event sealed in time, but an ever-flowing river, a continuous unfolding where the breath of Atum stirred life across ages. The world, vibrant and eternal, rhythmically pulsed with energy from the dawn of time through the endless expanse of the heavens. This eternal cycle, a sacred dance of beginnings and renewals, assured that life's breath would never cease, and the promise of transformation would endure forever. In the harmony of this cosmic rhythm, the universe found its true expression, a living testament to the power of creation, preservation, and the ceaseless promise of rebirth, woven into the limitless fabric of time and space. Hesiod's Theogony, the creation story of Greece. In the endless hush before the world's first dawn, before gods and mortals and dreams of power, before the memory of anything at all, there was only chaos. Not chaos as mortals would know it. No grasping hands, no roiling tempest or clamour. Rather, an infinite emptiness, deep and dark, without boundary or breath, a realm where even silence had not yet been born. It was possibility itself, coiled and restless, waiting for the spark that would unravel its midnight shroud. And then, in an echo without sound, Born not from need but from inevitability, Gaia emerged, a vast swelling presence, the earth herself, gentle and immense, her body like a sleeping giantess whose slow breath promised green life and towering stone. She was the mother beneath every dream, her skin destined to be pressed by mountains and rivers, her voice carried by the wind and root. She did not speak, for language itself had not yet come, but her longing radiated, filling the void with the promise that she would not remain alone. From within the same fathomless darkness, other mysteries bloomed into being. Tartarus, deep and dreadful, the echoing gulf that would one day swallow titans and traitors, gaped far beneath Gaia's rolling hills, an unlit pit, cold and silent, deeper than the thought of death. With Tartarus there was also Eros, eldest and youngest at once, a shimmering force with no form, whose mere existence set the world trembling. Eros was the power that made joining possible, that drew one soul towards another as roots burrow for water, as wings yearn for the open sky. His presence was a whisper of heat, a promise of union and creation. Through him the emptiness quivered with anticipation. Love flickered where nothing else could exist, desire weaving the very first tapestry from the thread of longing. As Gaia's heart swelled with her own loneliness, she conjured from her flesh a mighty companion. Uranus, the sky, burst forth, vast and glittering, flung high above her, his countless stars sewed across the darkness like diamonds on indigo silk. He arched protectively over Gaia, their embrace both dream and boundary, and in his gaze she saw reflected her own vastness, desire answering desire, the first divine marriage. Together, sky and earth lay close as lovers, closer still as co-creators, and from their mingling came a multitude of children destined to stir peace and strife through history's ages. First came the Titans, tall and noble, born each with their own domain and omen. Oceanus, whose veins pulsed with the promise of rivers and seas not yet drawn upon the land's brow. Coeus, wise and silent, holding close to him the axis on which the future would one day turn. Creus, keen-eyed. Hyperion, who would one day bear the power of light. Iapetus, strong as time. Thea, whose glance could kindle silver in stone. Rhea, regal and patient, her lap destined to bear new gods. Themis, soft-voiced, in whom all justice found its source. Mnemosyne, memory eternal. Golden Phoebe of the bright mind and deep swirling Tethys, whose arms would cradle rivers. 9 sons and 6 daughters, radiant and splendid, their forms sketching the first family tree among the immortals. But these were not Gaia's only children by Uranus. Violence and wonder, beauty and terror were siblings born side by side. She gave birth to the Cyclopes, Brontes, Steropus, and Arges, giants each with a single blazing eye at the centre of their foreheads, shining with a force as pure and raw as the thunder that would one day split the heavens. Next came the 100-handers, monstrous beyond imagination, Cottus, Briareos, and Gyges. Each possessed 100 arms surging from their shoulders, 100 hands swirling lightning and stone, voices so terrible their cries shook even Gaia's spacious heart. Uranus, proud yet fearful, looked upon these sons and daughters, beautiful and terrible and strange, and his heart hardened. He recoiled from them, unable to bear the sight of his own power, reflected in monstrous strength and unruly potential. Wounded by fear, Uranus hid the 100-handers and Cyclopes deep in Gaia's broad breast, smothering them in the darkness beneath the mountains, their cries muffled under layers of silent earth. Gaia, pierced with agony and betrayal, felt her children's turmoil tremble through every root and stone. Her love soured into secret anger. She nursed her pain in the shadows, plotting seeds of rebellion as deep as her endless valleys, vowing that her children's voices would not remain buried forever. Above, however, the world spun in awe and stillness. The mountains began to rise, their summits thrusting skyward like the bones of slumbering giants, and the sea insinuated itself alongside the curves of the continent, curling soft against the shore. No bird yet cried, no mortal foot pressed the grass, but through the silence the powerful ache for change had begun. The cosmos, once an empty, drifting dream, now churned with secret histories, stories yearning to be spoken aloud. And so, beneath the cold stars and within the warm, dreaming earth, the first conflicts began to cast their long, instructive shadows. For even paradise in its newness trembled with the knowledge that nothing beautiful can thrive forever without consequence. Gaia, vast and eternal mother, bore her children with both pride and a restless stir of unease deep in her endless heart. Though her embrace of Uranus, the resplendent sky, had brought forth magnificent progeny, the weight of his growing tyranny darkened the bright expanses. He loomed above her with a cold majesty, a vault of gleaming stars and thunderclouds, but his gaze hardened with dread and contempt for the wildness of their sons, the Titans, the Cyclops, the Hundred-Handers, creations too fierce, too untamed for his dominion. Each time they stirred in Gaia's womb or sought to rise unto the light, Uranus recoiled in fierce denial, pushing them back into the shadowy depths of their mother's body, as if they were contagions to be buried. His love was not for all his children, but for order, for an unyielding quiet that would preserve his own waning power. Gaia felt this cruelty deep within her bones, her soft flesh bruised by the cruel imposition of Uranus's will. Her sons, the mighty Titans, cried aloud in silent terror as the earth confined them, and the thunderous Hundred-Handers fumed, their countless arms clenched in anguish beneath stone and root. The Cyclopes, with their single burning eyes, wept molten light into Gaia's rivers. Her torment wove itself into secret songs whispered beneath the wind and through the trembling saplings. It was a pain that no mother could bear, a burden that pressed upon her vast shoulders until desperation took root, like a wild seed in the fertile soil of vengeance. And so Gaia, the wise and ancient, fashioned a cunning plan. From the depths of her body she gathered the sharpest flint and basalt, shaping a great sickle forged from the very bones of the earth. She summoned her youngest son Kronos, the Titan most bold and restless, whose heart burned with both fear and wildfire. Upon her knees she begged him, "Son of mine, fierce and unyielding, take this sickle made of my flesh and sky's essence. Rise against Uranus who shackles us all, who denies the birthright of our blood. Strike him down and free your brothers whose cries poison the bones of the earth." Kronos, fierce-eyed and trembling, took the gleaming blade in his hands, feeling the cold fire of rebellion burn through his veins. In the hidden places beneath the waiting stars, where earth and sky stretched tentatively apart, the hour of reckoning arrived. Uranus came to lie with Gaia as he had many times, oblivious to the plotting that shivered beneath the surface of her vastness. Kronos, crouched unseen, seized the moment. With the sharp sickle gleaming, hungry and terrible, he struck at his father, at the towering god who had locked away his kin in darkness. Flesh tore, stars seemed to shudder, and the great sky groaned with sudden pain. Blood like molten ruby spilled upon Gaia's breast, staining her with the agony and triumph of change. From the wounds of Uranus, terrible and wondrous beings sprang into the world. The Furies, dark-winged avengers born of blood and grief, arose sworn to punish betrayal and cruelty. Giants, massive and rage-filled, thundered into being, carrying with them the tumult of the earth's rebellion. And from the gleaming, severed flesh cast into the foaming sea arose Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty, and desire, radiant amidst the waves, born of violence, yet destined to weave passion and longing through all creation. With Uranus's reign ended, the heavens stretched new and uncertain over Gaia's freed children. The Titans, once shackled beneath their mother's flesh, stirred in the warm light and tasted freedom. Yet even in victory, Kronos felt the weight of glory heavy on his shoulders, unaware that the cruel fate that had shackled his father's reign would soon shadow his own throne. The cosmos, vibrant with new power, whispered secrets old and cold, that the cycle of succession was unbroken, and the hunger for dominion was an inheritance as ancient as Gaia herself. With Uranus cast down and the heavens newly boundless, Kronos, fiercest among the Titans, rose to claim the cosmos as his own. His shoulders, broad and unyielding, bore the heavy weight of a world reborn, one tempered in rebellion, yet shadowed by whispered fears. He stood tall among the sunlit peaks where the Titans gathered, his eyes sharp with the fierce pride of victory and the troubling certainty that power, once won by blood, is never held without cost. Gaia's fertile embrace, once a prison for many, now cradled a fragile peace, yet the shadow of prophecy clung tightly to Kronos' steps. With his sister and consort Rhea near, Kronos ruled the ages, ordering the earth beneath his newly fashioned throne. Seasons began their endless turning, and the forests whispered under the watchful gaze of the Titans. Yet even as prosperity rose, Kronos' heart was haunted by a dark prophecy, one whispered by the oracles and carried in the rustling leaves of the sacred groves, that he would be overthrown, not by gods nor monsters, but by the very seed of his own line. Each child born to him and Rhea was a ticking shadow of his doom. In cruel preemption, Kronos resolved to devour each infant born from his wife's womb, swallowing them whole the moment they drew their first breath, like devouring flames consuming the fragile sparks of rebellion before they could burn bright. His own flesh trembled beneath the terrible weight of this act, a poison brewed in fear. Thus the gods Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon were swallowed as soon as the cries of their birth whispered across the air, hidden deep within Kronos' cavernous belly, swallowed by time, yet not forgotten. Rhea, radiant but heavy with sorrow, bore the unbearable weight of loss. Each child vanished into the darkness, swallowed by the terror of their father's hands. Yet amidst the tempest of despair and hidden hopes, she conceived her youngest child, Zeus. With the wisdom born of agony and the courage of a heart unbroken, Rhea devised a secret plan to save her last hope from the shadow of Kronos' devouring hunger. In the solitude of night, beneath the watchful eyes of the silent stars, she fled far from the reach of her husband to the secret caves of Crete, where wild nymphs and the earth itself promised shelter. There, in the shadowed silence, the mighty Zeus was born, his cry a song of defiance, his breath the promise of new rulership. Rhea, swift and cunning, wrapped a stone in swaddling clothes, and in the hidden dark pressed it into the hands of Kronos, who swallowed it blindly, believing it to be his child. Thus the rock, heavy with fate and destiny, passed into the Titan's belly, a silent witness to the weaving of a slow, unstoppable revolt. Zeus grew in the sphere of nymphs and whispered legends amidst the wild olive groves. Fed by nectar and ambrosia, shielded by the secret earth, he thrived in the shadows where no Titan's eye could find him. His breath became the wind, his laughter the rustle of leaves in the hidden glades. Unknown to the world and yet destined to change it, Zeus's heart beat with the fierce drum of rebellion to come. The story of the gods was far from ended. It was only beginning. Concealed deep within the sacred groves and secret caves of Crete, where the earth's breath mingled with the whisper of ancient trees, Zeus grew from a hidden infant into a god of formidable power and radiant spirit. The wild nymphs, guardians of hidden springs and shadows, tended him with reverent care, feeding him honeyed ambrosia and cool crystal waters stolen from mountain peaks. Each day beneath the sheltering olive branches his strength grew, quiet and relentless, like the gathering storm waiting to awaken the sky. The muses sang soft hymns to guide his heart, filling his soul with courage, wisdom, and a burning yearning for justice. Though his cradle was cast far from the throne of his cruel father, Zeus's gaze burned with the promise of a new dawn. As he came of age, Zeus's mind sharpened with the foresight and cunning of his forebears, yet tempered with a compassion that set him apart. His spirit swelled with the knowledge of his siblings swallowed and imprisoned by the monstrous Kronos, their silent cries a haunting lullaby echoing beneath the earth. It was a burden heavy upon his young shoulders, but also fuel for his indomitable will. He knew that his time to act would come not by force alone, but by the careful weaving of might and wisdom, by the uniting of allies and the shattering of chains long forged in fear and despair. The moment arrived beneath a sky uneasy with portent, when the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. Zeus ventured forth from his secret refuge, stepping boldly into the world that had fallen silent under Kronos' iron reign. His eyes, blazing with thunderous fire, met his father's, a gaze both fierce and ancient, before he struck. With thunderbolts forged by the mighty Cyclops, now allies freed by Gaia's plea, Zeus turned the tide of cosmic power. First, he forced Kronos' jaws open wide with words sharp as sword edges, compelling him to disgorge the swallowed gods: Hestia, goddess of hearth and home; Demeter, the nurturing earth; Hera, radiant queen of marriage; Hades, solemn lord of the underworld; and Poseidon, formidable ruler of the seas. One by one they emerged from the belly of tyranny, reborn and girded for war. United. As the heavens darkened with the coming storm of war, the cosmos itself held its breath, waiting to witness a battle that would rend the fabric of existence. Zeus, newly crowned ruler of heaven, called upon the powers that slept beneath the earth and the fury that swelled within the sky. His cause was righteous, fueled by the cries of gods long imprisoned and the unyielding will to reshape the universe. The war, known throughout the ages as the Titanomachy, erupted in a fury unlike any that had come before. A clash of immortal titans against the vibrant Olympian gods, a tempest that shook the roots of Gaia and shattered the vault of Uranus. In the opening surge, the titans wielded the ancient forces they had inherited, the unyielding strength born at the dawn of creation. Oceanus, vast and encircling, summoned tidal waves that rolled across the edges of the world, threatening to drown hope itself beneath endless seas. Hyperion, the god of the sun's fierce light, cast burning rays that seared the battlefields and hardened the earth beneath his feet. Coeus, Creus, Iapetus, and their brethren roared with the power of storms and thunder, their voices a cacophony that seemed to fracture mountains and unravel the skies. The 100-handed giants, fearsome as they were, unleashed a storm of rocks and boulders, their arms flailing like the many limbs of an unstoppable tempest. But Zeus, undaunted and fierce, called forth the secret allies that would ensure victory, those ancient prisoners locked away by Uranus's cruel fear, the Cyclopes and the 100-handers. With Gaia's desperate blessing, Zeus descended into the earth's deep hollows and freed these mighty beings, their shackles falling away like brittle stone. The Cyclopes, their single eyes burning with fierce clarity, forged weapons of incomparable power in the flaming heart of the forge, fashioning gifts that would reshape the very face of the battle. In their hands, Zeus's lightning bolts crackled alive, potent and terrible. Poseidon's trident hummed with the might to stir oceans and shatter mountains. Hades claimed his helm of invisibility, a shadowy crown that would grant unseen passage through war and death. The 100-handers, now unleashed, tore through the ranks of the Titans with their countless arms, smashing boulders and wielding fury in relentless waves. Each furious blow shook the earth as if it were but delicate glass, cracking the Titans' ancient defences. The battle was a tempest of divine violence. Thunder clashed against the roar of the ocean, fire met the cold hand of shadow, and the sky was lit by the searing dance of bolts and flames. Mountains crumbled, rivers blazed, and the very cosmos seemed to shudder under the fury unleashed. One by one the Titans fell, their proud dominion shattered beneath the storm of new gods. Cries of rage and despair echoed through the shattered heavens as they were cast down into Tartarus, the darkest abyss beneath the earth, a prison forged to hold those who dared defy the new order. Mighty chains, crafted in the fury of the Cyclopes and guarded by the wrathful 100-handers, bound the Titans in eternal darkness. There, far beneath the world, they would remain, watchers and prisoners alike, their voices muffled into silence, their power contained but not destroyed. With the war's end came a trembling silence, a moment of breath drawn deep within the world's beating heart. Zeus, now the undisputed king of gods, ascended the summit of Mount Olympus, his throne aglow with radiant light and the weight of solemn duty. He had shattered the old reign and forged the new, but the price of power was clear, a vow to hold justice firm and to guard against the shadows that always seek to rise again. The ancient order had fallen, and from its ruins a golden age grew, the era of the Olympian gods, fierce and just, their story yet unfolding beneath the turn of stars. Thus was born the true kingdom of the heavens, forged in war, sustained by law, and watched over by a sovereign whose thunder echoed through eternity. The dance of gods and titans had ended, but the eternal struggle between light and dark, order and chaos, had only found a new rhythm in the song of the cosmos. In the fragile dawn of the new world, when the thunder of war had faded and the tremors of victory still echoed through the heavens and earth, a subtle yet profound tension took root, a silent conflict shaping the destiny of humankind and their relationship with the gods. Among the Titans who lingered in the shadows after their defeat, Prometheus stood apart, not for his strength, but for the fierce and restless compassion burning within his cunning heart. He was the forethinker, the trickster, the father of hope, and the bearer of gifts destined to change the course of mortal lives. Prometheus, whose very name means forethought, looked upon the fragile figures of humanity with a tenderness that eclipsed even his own fate. Carved from the fertile clay of Gaia herself and breathed to life by the divine breath, humans were soft and vulnerable, lost amidst the grandeur of gods and monsters. Yet in their smallness lay a spark, and Prometheus vowed to kindle that spark into a flame that would warm the cold nights and brighten the shadows of ignorance and despair. With deft hands and a heart heavy with both kindness and defiance, he stole fire, Zeus's sacred flame burning atop Olympus, and concealed it within a hollow fennel stalk, a slender vessel holding the hopes of mankind. This gift of fire was no mere tool. It was the breath of civilization, the first light breaking through the darkness. Fire gave man warmth against winter's chill, the power to transform raw flesh into food, the spark that illuminated the night and inspired the forging of iron and the crafting of art. With fire, humans stepped closer to the divine, bridging the gulf between mortal frailty and immortal light. Yet the gift was also a challenge, a burden wrapped in promise, for fire demanded respect and vigilance, and bore the silent seeds of destruction as well as creation. Zeus, watching from his throne, was enraged by this theft and the rebellion it symbolized. The delicate balance he sought to maintain between gods and men was shattered by Prometheus's act. The flame threatened to empower mortals beyond their place, to kindle arrogance and disobedience. In punishment both cruel and cunning, Zeus devised a retribution that would mark humanity forever, a gift tainted by sorrow and the bitter-sweet mingling of hope and despair. From the hands of Hephaestus, the divine smith fashioned at Zeus's command, came the first woman Pandora, sculpted from earth and water, adorned with irresistible charms and unyielding cunning. She was a marvel of beauty and grace, a radiant maiden whose very presence was a gift and a snare. To mankind she was presented as a blessing, yet within her delicate hands she carried a mysterious jar, sealed tight by the gods and filled with all the evils and hardships that would plague humanity. Curiosity, the eternal twin of desire and folly, stirred within Pandora's breast. She opened the jar, and from its depths escaped a tempest of woes, diseases, sorrow, strife, jealousy, and pain spread like shadows across the land. The earth grew heavy with suffering, and the hearts of men were burdened with grief and fear as blessings turned to curses. Yet, as the last wisp of misfortune fled into the darkness, Pandora quickly closed the jar, trapping within it a solitary blessing, hope, the fragile light left to comfort mankind amid the unleashed despair. Prometheus, meanwhile, bore his own harsh punishment. Bound to a desolate cliff upon the edge of the world, chained by invisible bonds wrought of Zeus's wrath, he was subjected to relentless torment. Each day, a fierce eagle descended to tear at his liver, which renewed with immortal pain each night, a ceaseless cycle of suffering for his love of mankind and his defiance of divine decree. Yet even in agony, Prometheus did not waver. His spirit remained unbroken, a beacon of resistance and foresight amid the unfolding tragedy. Thus was cast the tragic pattern of human existence, a world illuminated by the twin lights of fire and hope, yet ever shadowed by suffering and loss. In this eternal balance, mortals were bound, gifted and cursed by the gods, walking the narrow edge between blessing and ruin. Hesiod's tale offered a fierce truth, that knowledge and progress come at a price, that divine favour could turn to wrath, and that even the gifts of the gods carry shadows within their light. This story was an origin of pain and promise, of defiance and despair, a warning and testament writ large across the ages, etched into the very bones of humanity. With the great battle of the Titanomachy concluded, and the ancient Titans locked in the shadowed abyss of Tartarus, the world and heavens breathed a moment of stillness, but the vast tapestry of the cosmos remained far from complete. Under the watchful eye of Zeus and the Olympians, the divine family tree grew vast and tangled, stretching far beyond the bounds of the famous gods to include myriad beings whose forms and destinies intertwined beneath the sunlit heavens and the hidden shadows of the earth. This was a genealogy not simply of structured order, but of wild complexity, where gods, monsters, spirits, and heroes spun together the endless web of myth and fate. Zeus, now sovereign of Olympus, forged alliances and unions that bore many gods and demigods, each destined to shape the world in ways both splendid and terrifying. Among them was Hecate, the enigmatic goddess of magic and the night's dark alleys, who roamed the crossroads and held sway over the boundaries between worlds. Revered by those who sought knowledge of the unseen, Hecate was a guardian of hidden mysteries and silent rites, standing on the threshold of the mortal and immortal realms with a steady gaze that both comforted and warned. The earth itself continued to birth fearsome creatures, monsters whose very presence echoed the chaos still lurking beneath the surface of creation. The Hydra, terror of the swamps with its serpentine heads that multiplied with each strike, wove death and challenge for the mortal heroes who dared approach. Cerberus, the monstrous three-headed hound, stood as an unwavering sentinel at the gates of the underworld, his growl a warning to souls seeking escape and to those attempting entry. The Chimera, a terrifying blend of lion's ferocity, goat's stubbornness, and serpent's venom, breathed fire into the myths of villages and warriors, embodying the dangerous marriage of diverse forces unchecked. Alongside these terrifying beasts dwelled a host of nature spirits and lesser deities, nymphs shimmering in forest pools and whispering through ancient groves, river gods whose fluid forms shaped valleys and nurtured crops, and mountain spirits embodying the strength and mystery of the high places. These beings were nature made animate, the breath and pulse of the wild itself, their myths woven into the daily lives of mortals who sought their favour or feared their wrath. The line between gods and mortals blurred, meeting demigods, heroes born of divine and human unions. These figures standing on the cusp of two worlds bore the gifts and curses of their dual heritage. From mighty Heracles, whose strength rivaled the gods themselves, to cunning Perseus, slayer of monsters and bringer of rescue, these champions marched through history, their exploits sung by bards and etched into stone. Their stories were embroidered with grand quests, tragic flaws, and battles that echoed the eternal struggle between order and chaos, a struggle reflected in the heavens and in the human heart. Through this sprawling genealogy, Hesiod did more than recount names and tales. He mapped the living fabric of the mythic world, a world pulsing with divine ambition and mortal courage, where every star, tree and river bore witness to the interplay of cosmic forces. The gods and monsters were not distant figures, but threads in the same vibrant weave, their stories mingling with those of humanity to create the vast, ever-unfolding saga of existence. It was a genealogy of power and passion, of light and darkness, of creation's endless cycle, an eternal dance in which gods, monsters, heroes, and men alike played their part. Thus the cosmos grew vast and alive, a grand narrative woven from the countless beings who shaped its fate. The legend was not static but breathing, changing with each telling, echoing through the ages as a testament to the intertwined destinies of all who dwell beneath the heavens. The tale of divine lineage was the heartbeat of the world itself, constant, immense, and forever unfolding. With the ancient Titans cast into the deepest darkness of Tartarus and the thundering war silenced, Zeus ascended to the apex of divine power, his throne blazing atop Mount Olympus, crowned by the storm and lightning that marked his sovereignty. Yet his rule was far from solitary. It was a reign forged not merely through conquest, but through the careful weaving of order and balance across a cosmos vast and teeming with life, power, and ceaseless change. In the wake of upheaval, Zeus set about shaping a cosmos that reflected both the grandeur of the gods and the intricate harmonies of the mortal world beneath. Zeus did not govern alone, but shared dominion with his siblings, each entrusted with realms that together formed the fabric of the universe. Poseidon, lord of the seas, ruled over the endless depths and rolling tides, wielding his trident to summon storms or calm waters, sculpting coastlines, and commanding the mighty creatures of the ocean's vast expanse. Hades, shadowy sovereign of the underworld, attended to the realm of the dead, a sombre kingdom beneath the earth where souls found their solemn rest, steeled by the finality of fate and guarded by the ever-watchful Cerberus. The daughters and sons of these gods also spread their influence wide, weaving the divine into the natural world. Hera, queen of marriage and protector of the home, bore gods and goddesses who embodied the sacred bonds of family and fidelity. Demeter, goddess of grain and harvest, governed the earth's fertility and the cyclical rhythms of sowing and reaping, her moods reflected in the turning seasons. From their unions and domains sprang countless lesser deities, nymphs shimmering in forest shadows, river gods whose songs shaped the flow of water, and mountain spirits who breathed life into the towering peaks. At the heart of Olympus's order was the law, divine decrees that bound gods and men alike, a sacred covenant that maintained balance amidst the eternal flux. Zeus upheld justice with a hand as fierce as lightning and as steady as the earth beneath feet. Oaths spoken before him were sacred, and his judgment swift and final. Yet, beneath his might lay a tempered wisdom, aware that power was as fragile as it was immense, and that the wheel of fate turned ever onward, indifferent to pride or sorrow. In this ordered cosmos, mortals found their place, not as mere playthings, but as actors on a vast stage where divine favour and mortal will intertwined. Heroes sprung from the mingling of godly blood and human hearts, figures who bore the gifts of strength, courage, and tragic flaw. Mighty Heracles, whose labours were sung far and wide, Perseus, slayer of monsters, and countless others walked the earth, their stories echoing the timeless struggles between chaos and order, light and shadow. These heroes bridged the gulf between mortality and divinity, carrying the legacy of Olympus in their mortal veins. Thus, the reign of Zeus was not just a dominion of power, but a weaving of the cosmos's very soul, a cosmos alive with mystery, fate, and the eternal dance of forces seen and unseen. The universe stretched endless beneath the watchful eye of the King of Gods, its destinies bound to the thunderbolt that once shattered the ancient order and heralded a new age. In this realm, the story of the gods and men was forever unfolding, a grand narrative of creation and destruction, of hope and despair, set against the ever-turning wheel of time itself. The era of Olympus had dawned, vast and vibrant, its echoes destined to resound through eternity, lighting the path of all who dwell beneath the heavens. Ginnungagap and Ymir, the Norse creation story. In the beginning, before time took shape, before even the whisper of a world could echo through space, there was only Ginnungagap, the yawning abyss. It was a void limitless and profound, neither warm nor cold, neither light nor shrouded in shadow, but an emptiness so vast that it defied imagination. No wind stirred that place, no star glimmered in its expanse. It was a silent gulf, deep and measuring nothing, stretching endlessly beyond the grasp of thought. To the farthest reach of the north lay Niflheim, a kingdom of perpetual ice and swirling mist, its chill seeping into the nebulous edges of the void. It was a realm of frost and darkness, where rivers of venom slush crawled sluggishly beneath a pale, ghostly haze. And at the uttermost south blazed Muspelheim, a domain of untamable fire and searing light, a place of constant, consuming heat, ruthless and bright. Its flames licked upward, restless, seeking always to escape the boundaries of their own passion. Between these two extremes, Ginnungagap hung in perfect, breathless balance. Here, there were no sounds, no forms, no forces in conflict or in harmony. Only the mighty stillness endured, a pregnant silence awaiting the chaos of creation. Thus began everything and nothing, cradled in the hollow heart of the void. In the timeless hush of Ginnungagap, silence was sovereign, ancient and undisturbed. But at the farthest edges of this emptiness, beginnings were stirring. From Niflheim to the north crept tendrils of icy breath, rivers rolling slow and secret through the void. Bitter frost and frozen rime congealed into fantastical shapes, glimmering needles and shards that caught what little memory of cold there could be inside nothingness. Opposite, at the margins of Muspelheim, there burned an insistent glow. That was a world of fire untamed, its heat seething with fierce impatience. From that restless cauldron of flame swept smouldering winds and swirling embers, sparks eager for release, for purpose. Licks of raw fire stretched toward the empty gulf, their brilliance threatening to scorch the edge of the void. At last, these two forces, ice and fire, met in the heart of Ginnungagap. Here, the bite of frost recoiled from the rush of heat, yet could not flee, nor would the fire retreat, for its hunger was unending. The first true struggle began, not with sound or fury, but with the slow, inevitable alchemy of contact. Melting then, a trembling, momentous trembling, gripped the rime and hoarfrost as icy sheets softened under the caress of warmth. Great drops of water trickled into the nothingness, and with them came a power neither ice nor fire could claim alone, the mystery of becoming, of life taking its first uncertain steps. Mist curled and coiled, drifting through the breach, and in those droplets that fell from melting ice, seeds of impossible possibility stirred. The void was no longer silent. It murmured with the secret promise of creation. Thus, between two realms, in the secret heart of nothingness, the collision of fire and ice began to shape a world yet unimagined. From the hush that lingered after the meeting of fire and ice, the void continued to tremble. Thick mists curled and eddied where frost had surrendered to flame, and from the pooling waters, born of both elements, a shape began to gather. Slowly, deliberately, the formless drifts of ice water grew denser, pulled together by an ancient longing. In the silence a form coalesced, massive, old, unlike anything the cosmos had known. This was Ymir. He emerged not with cries, but with a swelling certainty of new existence. Titanic and strange, he lay upon the glistening surface of the melting rime, vast and alone. Ymir was the first, ancestor and anomaly, carrying within his being the secret spark of beginnings. His flesh shivered with cold and burned with feverish echoes of fire. He was shaped out of contradiction and possibility. For ages unknowable, Ymir existed in that shadowed gulf, breathing the airless silence, his heartbeat echoing through the emptiness. Strange dreams flickered behind his heavy brow, dreams seeded by the strange mingling of elements that had given him life. Then, in his slumber, something more miraculous occurred. As Ymir slept, sweat gathered beneath his arms, thick and teeming with primal life. From that moisture, odd and unruly shapes took form, giants, Jötnar, male and female, ancient kin to the first. From the joining of Ymir's legs, another being stirred into existence, doubling the thrum of life through the void. Ymir, both mother and father to a restless lineage, lay unmoving as his children multiplied, strange and formidable, echoing their progenitors' power and uncertainty. The abyss that had been emptiness now sheltered a clan of giants, swirling into existence from the quiet, impossible alchemy of melting frost. Thus, the void silence was broken, filled instead by the slow, deep breathing of Ymir and the whispered beginnings of a world not yet shaped but no longer truly empty. In darkness, the first being dreamed, and from his dream arose the children of chaos. As the stirrings of life swelled within Ginnungagap, and Ymir's dreams spun the beginnings of a new brood, the primeval waters yielded yet another marvel, one as gentle as Ymir was formidable. From the crust of rime where the last drifts of ice met the newborn damp, there stepped forth Audhumla, the great cosmic cow. She was vast and serene, hewn from the same melding of elements that had birthed Ymir, yet her manner radiated peace rather than hunger or might. Her coat shimmered with the blue frost of Niflheim and the faint warm glow of Muspelheim, a living bridge between cold and heat. She moved with solemn grace, her hooves sinking into the crystalline slush, soft eyes shining with primordial gentleness. Audhumla's purpose emerged at once, as if it had always been known. 4 rivers of rich, shimmering milk welled up from her teats, cascading upon the barren face of the void. It was nourishment, the first miracle of kindness in that austere wilderness. Ymir, famished from his lonely genesis, drew strength from these rivers, drinking deeply, the milk thick and cool as moonlit streams. In Audumla's care, the world's first giant grew mighty and enduring, his strength fed by her abundance. Yet Audumla herself needed sustenance, and so she sought it in the salt-rimmed stone, frozen blocks, rimmed and ancient, thrust up from Ginnungagap's damp floor. She pressed her broad tongue against their surface, licking the salt with patient persistence day after day. On the first day, hair appeared where her tongue had passed, pale and glistening in the dim primordial light. On the second, a head of noble shape began to form, crowned with eyes both wise and watchful. And upon the third day, whole and miraculous, the figure of a man emerged from the ice itself. This was Buri, regal and silent, the ancestor of gods, the first hope of order amid the teeming chaos. So in the hush of that abyss, while giants multiplied in the shadow of Ymir, Audumla tended both the growing brood and the birth of something new, a lineage that would someday challenge the old powers and temper chaos with a touch of divinity. The cow, gentle and eternal, stood watch in the dawnless void, and the world's story grew richer with each beat of her patient heart. From the iceborn figure of Buri, the slow unfolding of divine lineage began, like the first fragile shoots piercing the frozen earth. Buri lived in silence, a towering presence, still and inscrutable, a being shaped from frost and mystery, yet bearing within him the promise of change. In time, Buri took a son, Bor. Stronger and more purposeful than his father, Bor was an active force amid the vast quiet. Into his life stepped Bestla, a giantess born of the towering Jötnar, the children of Ymir, a thread connecting god and giant from the start. Bor and Bestla's union was a deep and solemn weaving of two worlds, light and shadow, order and chaos. From this sacred bond came three sons, destined to shape the future and forge the cosmos anew: Odin, Vili and Ve. Odin, eldest and most radiant, bore the keen intellect and fierce will, eyes deep as the night sky, ever searching. Vili, whose spirit burned with courage and passion, complemented Odin's wisdom with strength and boldness. Ve, the youngest, held sacred the sparks of life itself, manifesting power over the senses and the divine breath that would animate the world. Together, these three brothers stood at the threshold of eternity, born of ice and rime, yet kindled with the fierce flames of Muspelheim's fire. They carried not only the heritage of Buri but the weight of destiny, poised to face the ancient chaos that stirred in the giant kin. In the stillness of Ginnungagap, beneath the vast dome of Ymir's skull yet to be shattered, the echoes of their laughter and footsteps stirred the silent void, a herald of beginnings as God stepped forward to entwine their fate with that of all creation. Thus the lineage of the Aesir was born, a triad bound by blood and purpose, ready to carve order from the ancient wilds and shape the cosmos into a home for gods, giants, and men alike. The silence of Ginnungagap, once vast and eternal, now trembled with the restless stirrings of life and power. Ymir, the primal giant whose breath had fogged the void, whose flesh had shaped the earliest forms, became a shadow of fear and chaos to the gods Odin, Vili, and Ve. His immense body was a wilderness of wild possibilities, untamed, unpredictable, and threatening the fragile order they sought to build. So, with heavy purpose and unyielding will, the three brothers confronted Ymir. The clash was a tempest born of thunder and fury, a struggle between the ancient chaos of the giants and the rising order of the gods. Steel met flesh. Lightning cleaved vast limbs. The void itself seemed to shudder beneath their cosmic duel. At last, with a final deafening strike, Odin's blade pierced the heart of Ymir. The giant roared, a deep, quaking sound that shook the foundations of Ginnungagap, and then fell silent, his immense form collapsing into the abyss. From the flood of Ymir's blood, torrents spilled forth like raging seas, drowning nearly all of the giants who roamed the void, save for the few, like Bergelmir and his wife, who escaped the deluge to preserve their line. And from Ymir's broken body the gods wrought the world itself. Each fragment became a cornerstone of creation. His flesh stretched wide and firm, becoming the earth beneath their feet, rolling hills and fertile plains born from the giant's skin. His blood pooled and surged, crafting the seas, rivers, and lakes that would cradle life in their depths. His bones, sturdy and unyielding, soared skyward as jagged mountains and cavernous cliffs. Teeth and shattered fragments of bone scattered across the land as stones and rocks sharp and enduring. His hair sprung forth as forests and trees, waving their limbs in the invisible winds of a newborn world. The heavens themselves were forged from the dome of his skull, a vast canopy held aloft by 4 dwarven guardians, north, south, east, and west, who stood watch over the skies. And from Ymir's swirling brain clouds coalesced, drifting like ephemeral dream shrouds across the firmament. Thus the cosmos was born from death, the body of chaos transmuted into the architecture of order. The world, the living, breathing tapestry of land, sea, and sky, was fashioned from the sacrifice of a primordial giant. In that sacred act of creation, the gods claimed dominion, shaping the abyss into a realm rich with promise and peril, a stage set for the unfolding drama of gods, giants, and men. Yet even in victory, the echo of Ymir's ancient power lingered, a reminder that from chaos life is wrought, and to chaos it may someday return. In the aftermath of chaos, with the flesh of Ymir laid bare as earth, and his blood swelling into the seas, the gods Odin, Vili, and Ve set forth to bring order to the newborn world. They stood where the vast skull of the slain giant once arched above the void, ready to shape the sky and spread light across the emptiness. From the fiery heart of Muspelheim, the brothers drew sparks, brilliant and fierce, kindling the sun and moon to chase away the lingering shadows. These twin orbs hung like burning jewels in the heavens, casting light upon the freshly born earth and waters below. The stars were set like scattered embers, flickering against the vast dome of Ymir's skull, a ceiling held firm by the steadfast dwarves, north, south, east, and west, who stood as eternal guardians of the sky. The world was fashioned with precision and care. Midgard, the enclosure for mankind, was shaped as a great fortress ringed by the endless sea, an island of safety amid wild lands. Between it and the giant's realm, the gods erected mighty walls, a bulwark against the chaos of old, ensuring boundaries to keep order intact. Then, from the driftwood and the quiet shores of this new earth, Odin and his brothers crafted the first humans, Ask and Embla. They breathed into them the breath of life, the spark of consciousness, the warmth of feeling. These two stood as ancestors of humankind, carrying the divine gift of sentience and set to walk the world shaped by gods and giants. With the realms defined and life kindled, the tapestry of existence stretched wide, the lofty heavens above, the fertile earth beneath, the deep waters weaving through it all. The gods took their places in Asgard, their shining city above the clouds, while the giants wandered the distant shadowed realms. The elves and the dwarves took root in hidden places, completing the weave of the cosmos. Thus was the world born from void and violence, a realm framed by the breath of gods and forged in the sacrifice of giants. Here, story and fate began to turn, an endless interplay of creation and destruction, light and shadow, order and chaos. And beneath it all, the memory of Ginnungagap lingered still, a yawning abyss, the ever-present reminder of what had been and what might yet come again.